Hi, this is James with some gameplay from The Last of Us.
Try not to make a sound.
The difficulty setting is Survival. On this difficulty, you usually have about 4 bullets at any given time. You maybe have enough supplies for 2 combination items, and your melee weapons are fairly limited early on. This area is particularly difficult in that regard. Sneaking is usually the best strategy since Joel often dies in 2 or 3 hits, and multiple enemies will hit him simultaneously in a group. The level design corrals Joel through corridors between school buses, and runners have a good view of most of this area. So what you find is that you run down corridors that funnel you toward runners, and then you're pinched from behind by runners that were chasing you in the first place. On Survival, the level design gives the runners the advantage, so you need to find a way to use the level to your advantage. This is where the tops of the buses come in. On the ground, you're funneled towards your enemies. On top of the bus, your enemies must climb aboard at specific choke points, so they're funneled toward you. Even better, when punching enemies on top of the bus, you can sometimes trigger Joel's gut kick. This usually throws them off the top of the bus, rewarding you with an instant kill, so you're free to attack newcomers. Attacking on the ground keeps Joel stationary, which means he's vulnerable to most other attacks. The enemies here appear in 2 waves. Joel has the right idea. If a runner's occupying a choke point that you need to run through, don't try to rush past. Joel recovers from punching a runner faster than the runner recovers, so use this stun period as your opportunity to create distance. Bill and Ellie can sometimes get caught wrestling the second wave after they appear. Don't go too far away from them. The top of this second bus has some advantages and disadvantages compared to the first. The first bus had entry points on both the front and the back. You needed to patrol back and forth to make sure that no enemy was catching your back, but you also had fewer enemies in one location to deal with at a time. On the second bus, you don't need to worry about your back, but there are often more enemies at that choke point. If you get stuck fighting or if you get grabbed, you run a greater risk of taking damage from whoever else is around. Much like Joel is vulnerable to other runners when he focuses on one enemy, runners are vulnerable to Joel when they attack one of your team. Use them as bait for slowing down and even stalling oncoming enemies. That might not be their idea of teamwork, but it is technically a collaborative effort.
They must be holed up somewhere. Well, let's not test our luck.
While I acknowledge that this is a disfigurement that probably merits coining the term superperiodontitis, it's nothing compared to Bill's anatomical variations. Back in South Carolina, we call this the Harmon-Kinsler double what the ankle. I attribute this genetic marvel to Bill's ability to negotiate the debris of a willfully wasted urban landscape without tripping to disadvantage. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if there were, somewhere in Lincoln, a scrap pile of shoehorns over which Bill has engraved a sign that reads, "Mere mortals spend 10 minutes wrestling to get their shoes on, but I can slip a boot 2 sizes too small on and off as I please." It's not pithy. It's not proverbial. It's an aggrandized concrete statement inapplicable to any other context. It's Bill's town. It's Bill's rules. Think about it, won't you? Let's look at another performance of the same strategy one more time, this time pointing out specific actions. First, charge forward and get everybody's attention. And get on top of the bus right away. Sprint back and forth across the length of the bus to prevent getting caught from behind. And stay aware of Bill and Ellie. If you need to help them, jump down, free them, and climb back up immediately. Attack runners so that you push them to the sides of the bus. Joel will more reliably kick them off the bus at this angle. And like what we saw before, sometimes the teamwork here is just lovely. This is one of the advantages of fighting near your teammates. Cool stuff is more likely to happen. Now trigger the second wave by running through the central corridor.
Ellie, run! Run!
I prefer the first bus,
Move it.
so I take the long way around to avoid choke point confrontations. As long as your teammates show no signs of danger, keep running ahead to your destination. It is a risk, but once you're on top of the bus, you can jump off in their direction. And now just do what you did the first time. Again, you're fighting enemies that you can't afford to let surround you. On the ground, they have the advantage because of the level design. Up here, you make the level design play to your strengths. They'll run mindlessly at you. And it's basically a way of using the level design to create a trap. Traps, of course, are the other strategy that you will use a lot on survival in addition to stealth. And now for one last look at teamwork, the sire of bloody kick-splosions.